Hey there, welcome to my first deck tech for kind of a recent build I put together called Don't Open the Door. I really wanted to build like a Halloween themed haunted house deck and kind of came across Marina Vendrall from Duskworn as kind of like the lead to this idea of going through a haunted house with all these different room cards and enchantment cards and seeing if I can win the game that way. And kind of just utilizing my favorite card type in Magic the Gathering being enchantments. Enchantments are really hard to deal with. Most of the time, a lot of people have creature removal or artifact removal and artifact hate. Enchantments I find to be something that people tend to forget a lot of the time, but we're going to use that to our advantage. The main card of this deck is going to be trying to win with the other side of one of these room cards, the Promising Stairs, which is a 3-cost that says at the beginning of your upkeep, surveil 1, you win the game if there are 8 or more different names among unlocked doors of rooms you control. And with Marina, that's going to be pretty easy to get out there. Plus, we have a few other ways to get a lot of enchantments onto the field pretty quickly through some of our other legendary creatures in this pile. We're also going to be utilizing a lot of the other room effects that come with the benefits of just unlocking each of these. Things like Fractured Realm, which triggers an ability multiple times, or making copies of things. Really, a lot of this is gaining benefits on card draw every time that we play an enchantment. We want to make sure our hand is loaded enough that way we can build up our little maze here. Because we don't really want to be swinging a lot in this deck, what we end up doing is kind of pillow forting it a bit with things like Propaganda and Sphere of Safety. Sphere of Safety being pretty nasty in this deck because it triggers twice or counts twice for each of the enchantment rooms. Some pretty big game enders outside of trying to win off of Promising Stairs, especially if you can't find it in your deck or in the graveyard, is we can always just turn the house into a weapon itself using Bellow, Bard of the Brambles, who takes the value of the total amount of pips on the room cards and uses that to bring them to life and swing. And same thing with Zur, Eternal Schemer, who flies himself, but enchantment creatures I control have Death Touch, Lifelink, and Hexproof. We can also turn target non-aura enchantments into creatures. So we turn the rooms into creatures, and then we can swing, and then now the house itself has Death Touch, Lifelink, and Hexproof. So it's very thematic, where the realm of Duskworn is this living entity. The house itself is an entity, and we're kind of just exploring the manor as we go through. To keep it in flavor, also, we have the Master of Keys, who himself mills a bunch of cards down and puts a bunch of counters on him from the amount of cards that we milled, but each enchantment card in our graveyard has escaped them. So even if our enchantments get destroyed, we have ways to have a little bit of recursion and bring them back. There's a lot of fun things that can be done in here, and classic Enchantress stuff like having Sithis in here for a little bit of life gain, a little bit of card draw, and a lot of our good old Selesnya buddies to bring in that card draw. This deck is kind of a bracket 2, maybe leaning bracket 3. I'm finding it winning more often than not, though the big issue with this deck is because it's not really a combat focused deck, and more getting like a little engine online. Getting board wiped in this deck does kind of suck, especially if you have a lot of the creatures on the board that are either turning the rooms into creatures or any of the engine pieces getting us our card draw or making things cheaper for enchantments. Losing those really does suck, especially once you kind of get your ramp in and everything going. The rest of this deck is pretty standard ramp package, using things like Radamus Reach, Cultivate, Ramping Growth, the usual suspects, and a little bit of interaction with Swords to Plowshare, Path to Exile, usual removal stuff, and a counterspell or two, with the very classic hot woman counterspell in my particular version of this deck. You can find the whole deck in the link in the description, which will go to my Mox field, which I have other decks there that you can peruse. I'll probably end up doing a deck tech for each of those at some point, but I figured with Halloween having just passed, I kind of missed the date on it to get this out there, but it's still spooky season in my head, and this deck is a lot of fun to kind of rip.